The aggregate price level is a measure of the overall level of prices in the economy. And to measure this price level, we use a price index. So it's the measure of changes in price level. There are many different price indices, but the formula is usually nominal value over real value times 100. The most common price indices are the Consumer Price Index, the GDP deflator, and the Producer Price Index. Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is based on the value of the market basket. A market basket is a basket of goods that a typical family of 4 consumes in the base year. It measures the cost of the market basket of a typical urban American family. The quantities in the basket are fixed. So the CPI is measured as the nominal value of market basket divided by the real value of the market basket times 100. The nominal value of market basket is calculated using current prices and fixed quantities. So you take the current price of one good times its quantity plus the current price of another good times its quantity, and you keep going until you reach the end of the list of items in the market basket. The real value of the market basket is calculated using base prices and fixed quantities. So nominal over real times 100. GDP deflator is not based on the market basket. It actually includes all the stuff produced in the economy in the current year. So it is calculated as nominal GDP divided by real GDP times 100. What is nominal GDP? Nominal GDP is calculated using current prices and current quantities. Note, this is different from CPI, right? We use current quantities in that specific year. Real GDP is using base prices and current quantities. Any of the price indexes can be used to measure the inflation rate, which is the yearly percentage of change in the price index, or the growth rate of the price index. Typically, the inflation rate is based on the CPI. That is the most common measure of the aggregate price level. However, any price index can be used in this formula. So the inflation rate formula is price index in year 2 minus price index in year 1 divided by price index in year 1 times 100. Year 2 and year 1 do not need to be consecutive years. They can be 5 years apart. You just typically have a new price index, an old price index, and the formula is new minus old over old times 100. So whenever we need to find the real value of any variable, remember that any price index was equal to nominal over real times 100. So from here, if we want the real value, that will be equal to nominal value over price index times 100. But that is assuming that we want the base year as assumed in the table that's given to us, right? Whatever year CPI is 100, that will be the base year. But what if we wanted to change the base year to whatever we want it to be? So in that case, if we want to deflate all the prices, all the expenditures to a specific base year, then the real value will be nominal value over CPI in current year times CPI in the base year. Let's work out an example. In this example, we have a country that produces bananas and back rubs. Assuming that year 1 is the base year, we need to calculate the GDP deflator in years 1, 2, and 3, and then inflation rate. First, we need to calculate the GDP deflator in every year. GDP deflator in year 1 is the nominal GDP in year 1 over real GDP in year 1. What is the nominal GDP in year 1? It is the quantities, it's price of bananas in year 1 times quantity of bananas in year 1 plus price of back rubs in year 1 times quantity of back rubs in year 1. So that is all that's produced in this economy. What is real GDP in year 1? Well, it depends what the base year is. Let's say we say that our base year is year 1. Any year can be base year, but in our case, we're using year 1 as base year. So the base year prices are in year 1 are just the same as current year prices. So $1 times 10 units plus $6 times 5 units. So that is equal to, and times 100, and that is equal to 40 over 40 times 100. This is equal to 100. It is important to remember that the price index in base year is always 100. So what about GDP deflator in year 2? That is also nominal GDP in year 2 over real GDP in year 2 times 100. What is the nominal GDP in year 2? So it is current price of bananas, which is $2, times the current quantity of bananas, which is 5, plus current price of back rubs, which is $6, times current quantity of back rubs, which is 4. What about the real GDP? Well, for real GDP, we have to use the prices from the base year, which are these right here. So every time we are thinking we need to calculate real GDP, we will use these prices. So it's $1 and $6. But we're using current quantities. So quantities in year 2 are 5 bananas and 4 back rubs. So in year 2, the GDP deflator is 117.24. Let's calculate GDP deflator in year 3. So the nominal GDP in year 3 is current prices, which is $3 for bananas times current quantity of bananas, plus current price of back rubs, which is $8 times current quantity of back rubs, which is 3. What about real GDP in year 3? As before, we're using prices from the base year to calculate the real quantity. So that is $1 and $6. But we're using the current year quantities, which is 5 and 3. This is equal to 169.56. So now we can fill out this column with GDP deflator for each year. Notice that GDP deflator is 100 in base year. In our case, it's year 1. Now we can calculate the inflation rate based on this GDP deflator. Let's calculate inflation rate from year 1 to year 2. Inflation rate is calculated as new minus old over old times 100. So that is GDP deflator in year 2 minus GDP deflator in year 1 over GDP deflator in year 1 times 100. GDP deflator in year 2 is 117.24, and GDP deflator in year 1 is 100 over 100 times 100, 17.24. So the inflation rate is 17.24. The fact that this inflation rate is positive, it indicates inflation. If it were negative, it would be deflation. Now let's calculate inflation rate from year 2 to year 3. Again, we're using new minus old over old times 100. That is GDP deflator in year 3 minus GDP deflator in year 2 over GDP deflator in year 2 times 100. That is equal to 169.56 minus 117.24 divided by 117.24 times 100. That is equal to 44.62. and that is the inflation rate from year 2 to year 3. Mind that this is percent, so inflation rate is calculated as percent. Here is the typed out solution for this problem. Now let's do an example where we calculate CPI and inflation rate based on CPI. Remember that CPI is based on the market basket, which has fixed quantities of goods. The quantities don't change year to year. So in this case, the market basket contains 5 pizzas, 2 ice creams, and 10 sodas. Let's assume that year 2010 is the base year. And assuming that, we have to calculate CPI in 2010, 2011, and 2012, and then inflation rate from 2010 to 2011 and from 2011 to 2012. Let's go over the solution to this problem. First, we need to calculate the value of the market basket. Remember that quantities in the basket do not change, only prices change. And the quantities were 5 pizzas, 2 ice creams, and 10 sodas. The value of the market basket in year 2010 is the price of pizza, $5, times quantity of pizza, 5, plus price of ice cream in that year, which is $1, times quantity of ice cream, 2, plus the price of soda in 2010, which is $1, times the quantity, which is 10. This is equal to $37. Note that because 2010 is the base year, this value of the market basket is also going to be the real value of the market basket. We will need to remember it when we calculate CPI. What is the value of the market basket in 2011? So we're using prices from 2011 times fixed quantities, and we get 62. $62 is the value of the market basket in 2011. What about 2012? We use prices from 2012 and fixed quantities. The value of market basket in 2012 is 29. Now we can fill out the last column here with the value of the market basket. Now we're ready to calculate the CPI in each year. CPI is equal to nominal value of the market basket over real value of the market basket. So CPI in 2010 will be equal to nominal value of the market basket in 2010 over the real value of the market basket times 100. So what is the real value of the market basket? Well, because 2010 is the base year, the real value of the market basket will be the value of market basket in the base year, that is 2010, which is 37. So nominal value of the market basket in 2010 is 37, and the real value of the market basket is just the same because our base year is our current year, and the CPI in 2010 is 100. And we expected this because CPI in base year is always 100. CPI in 2011 will be equal to the nominal value of the market basket in 2011 over the real value of the market basket, multiplied by 100. The nominal value of the market basket in 2011 is $62. The real value is always the same, which is $37. So CPI in 2011 is equal to 167.57. Now let's calculate CPI in 2012. It is equal to nominal value of the market basket in 2012 over the real value of the market basket. That is equal to $29 divided by $37 times 100. Notice that when we calculate CPI, the denominator is always the same. It's just the real value of the market basket which is the value of the market basket in the base year. So CPI in 2012 is 78.38. Now we can fill out this table. CPI in the base year should be 100, and it is. CPI in 2011 is 167.57, and CPI in 2012 is 78.38. Now we can calculate the inflation rate. The inflation rate is new minus old over old price index times 100. In this case, our price index is CPI. The new year is 2011, the old year is 2010. So we have CPI in 2011 minus CPI in 2010 over CPI in 2010 times 100. So that is 167.57 minus 100 over 100 and times 100. The inflation rate from 2010 to 2011 is 67.57%. Because it is positive, we say that this is inflation. What about the inflation rate from 2011 to 2012? That is CPI in 2012 minus CPI in 2011 divided by CPI in 2011 times 100, which is going to be 78.38 minus 167.57 divided by 167.57 times 100. It is equal to minus 52 plus 62%. Because this is a negative number, we say that this is deflation. This is the typed out solution. Let's say I just had this table of CPIs that I calculated, and I needed to find the base year, and I didn't have any information about what the base year is. Could I find out what it is? Yes, because CPI in the base year is 100. So we know that the base year is 2010. What if I wanted to calculate the inflation rate from 2010 to 2012? These are not consecutive years. In order to do that, 2012 will be the new year, 2010 will be the old year, and then we can calculate the inflation that way. So inflation rate from 2010 to 2012 will be equal to CPI in 2012 minus CPI in 2010 divided by CPI in 2010 times 100, which is 78.38 minus 100 divided by 100 times 100, which is minus 21.62%. That is the inflation rate from 2010 to 2012, and we say that this is deflation. And the final question. If a person earned $70,000 in 2011, how much would they have to earn to maintain the same purchasing power in 2012? This is called adjusting for inflation. If we want to get a value in 2012, we need to take the value in 2011, multiply it by CPI in 2012, and divide it by CPI in 2011. So my value in 2011 is $70,000. And I need to multiply it by CPI in 2012, which is 78.38, and divide it by CPI in 2011, which is 167.57. This is equal to $32,742. So because there was a deflation from 2011 to 2012, the $70,000 in 2011 is equivalent to $32,742 in 2012.